My mother still lived on 63rd and Crenshaw, but I was over here at my grandmother's. Because it was just too difficult for me to live on. I got jumped. The night they put PD Whack on 60s, they was deep. They had come from a party, and I got caught by the 60s, and I got rushed. I got beat up pretty bad, unconscious, all that type shit. So
your mom knew about that?
Well, she came outside with a pistol. She was up and down the street trying to shoot at him. They was deep. They was about 60, 65 deep. They was coming from a party. They was hitting Crenshaw, ready to do whatever. And here I come walking down the street with a red jacket on, said Sarah High School. I'm like, shit. You must be the next victim we've been looking for.
Did you ever find out who was actually involved in that?
Oh yeah, I know who it was.
Oh, okay.
It was Big Fish. I was with Fish in jail in 2004. I'm in there with him and Petey Whack, and we was reliving that. And they was in Petey Whack like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's the day that I got put on. And I was like, yeah. And I said, Fish, I know it was you. And he said, man, I would never do you like that, Skip. I said, not now you wouldn't, but 79, you didn't know me. You did that shit. So yeah. So at that point, my mama was like, man, you gonna get killed. And don't forget too, in my mind still is like, remember I was saying I'm gonna fight the Crips, so I'm already in my mind, I'm a blood. I didn't have a hood though. I wasn't from 20 Outlaws, even though that's where, most thing that I knew, and gangbanging in Inglewood, but I wasn't from Inglewood family, So she was like, man, you gotta get up out of here. So that's how I moved over this way.
So when you moved over here, your mom still stayed in 60 Hood?
She stayed there till 83.
So who were the first homies over here you met when you came on Washington?
Well, see, I already knew Skinny Chris off of Van Ness. I knew Romeo and Ethan. I knew Shannon and Brother Gerard. I knew KB and Bullock and them dudes from Skating Ring and Dorsey and all that. So I knew a handful already, but the thing that changed everything for me is when I met Head. So when I met Head, you got to understand that Monster and Tick and Wendell, Wayne, they was young.
Yeah. So
you figure if I'm 17, 18 years old, these dudes is 13, 14. So they couldn't influence me to be run with them, you know what I mean? But Head was a little different. So I'm trying to make money. And Big B-Rock was younger too, but he was about making money. So I was hanging with Chris, Big B-Rock, Now Chris is showing me how to make money selling drugs. And that's what the whole thought was, how we make money selling drugs. So that kind of changed my direction. And once I started doing that, and I had relationships in Inglewood Village, and they was doing the same thing. So my whole thing came about, so now I'm gonna be a drug dealer.
A lot of the dudes you mentioned were from the city.
Yep.
But Head, Big B-Rock, really at that time, Avenues wasn't completely established, right? 1980, 81, 82.
Well, they told me they was Avenues.
They said they was Avenues,
yeah,
but
they told me they was Avenues.
They weren't part of 20s though, or was it?
But yeah, they had walked down there. They had walked down the hill and got on with them, like, man, we 20s. So this is the block I hung out on, Hobart, but I lived around the corner. You can hit either block here. So this is South Hobart. This is Hobart and Washington. So when I got out of jail back in 1980, and my mother was concerned for my life because I had been jumped by the Rollin 60. She didn't want me living on 63rd and Crenshaw. I came over here to stay with family over here, my grandmother and her sister. So my grandmother had an apartment that she rented over here. She also had one on 12th Ave in Montclair, but her sister-in-law had a house on Harvard, which is right around the corner, but I was on this block every day. There's a block I was hanging on, and I had my first kids over here on this block. So behind me, behind this burger stand, the Mansfield Hustlers was hanging out on Harvard. So even though Mia, which is the homeboy Reese wife, OG Reese from 20s. So Reese would be over here behind me, so would Crazy B. But at the time in 1980, I didn't know them. I didn't know them till like 1982. So when I came over here, they was over there, but the Mansfields just kept coming and coming, and before you know it, that became their block.
So, in terms of the homies that were either from the city or the jungles, how many of them were living over around this Washington side?
I didn't know any. I didn't know any that lived over here, but they would always come get me. So Skinny Chris would come, Head would come through. You know, some of the older dudes would come through. I remember Poncho lived on 2nd Ave. Poncho came over here, Dewey, Romel, you know, Chris. They would come through and get me. So I was always up and down Washington, but shit, it wasn't a lot going on. I remember going to a phone booth out here, like probably 1982, and Skun had stole a beach cruiser, a red beach cruiser. And I didn't know who he was, and he was in all red. He came up on me and he was like, "Hey, you want to buy this beach cruiser for $50?" And he said, "Man, it costs $150 in the store." So I was like, "Nah, but who are you?" And we chopped it up, and he told me he was Skun from 20 and this and that. But other than that, I didn't know nobody down the hill in 1980. Except for Shorty. I met Shorty, which I think is original Skipp from over there. Shorty's one of the original 20s. But I don't think that was till like 82 as well.
At some point, you met Rocky.
Yeah, so I didn't meet Rocky over here. So I know Rocky used to go and play sports at Normandy Park, but I didn't know him then. I met Rocky on the porch over on Arlington. So I was hanging with Head, and when I was hanging with Head, everybody would kind of check in at Head House. Everybody came around Head House. So that's how I met all the 20s, all the City Stones. Yeah, I was doing that from 80 to 82, just hanging out and making my hustling, chasing girls and hustling my cars. I would be stealing cars and car parts and stuff.
So how'd you first meet Head?
I met Head through Chris. Skinny Chris lived on Van Ness. So Chris was the man. He always had money, could drive his mama car, stuff like that. So when I was stealing tires and stuff like that, I met Chris, and Chris would, me and Chris became real cool. So Chris introduced me to Head. Head was the original dude in the neighborhood from 20s. Everybody else was from Blackstones, except for his little brother, Kenny and Reggie and all them. They started claiming 20s too, but and Crazy K. You know, they started the 20 Avenues, but they was little kids. So I would laugh like, okay, that's cute, but I ain't gonna be a part of that, you know. I couldn't see the future though. So I looked at Reggie and Kenny and them, Wendell and Wayne and all them. I looked at Big Boy, Kevin was a snake. Had a dude named Pat. Pat went bad on us though. You know, ain't supposed to talk about him no more. But it was so many of them, but they was young, but they was riders. Even little Daryl Dagley, you know, he was Smiley at the time. He was a little Smiley, but he had broke out of camp. He had ran away from camp like 2 or 3 times. So shit, I just fell in love with the neighborhood, man. I fell in love with the community. So I was like, fuck it, whatever y'all with, I'm with, man.
And he became Little Lunatic.
So now he's Little Lunatic, right.
Okay. So those guys you mentioned, would it be fair to say, even though they were young, they were first generation Avenues?
Oh, they were. So Head is the oldest, I'm the second oldest, but me and Head were not Avenues. They started Avenues. So if you really want to say something, to be honest, me and Head joined that gang. You know what I mean?
Thanks for watching StreetTV.net. If you're not subscribed, please hit that button below and click the bell to receive alerts and notifications. Like and comment below to give us your feedback, and be sure to watch the 2 related videos to the right. If you want to support this platform or follow us on social media, visit the links in the description and listen to our weekly podcast, The Gangster Chronicles, every Thursday. And thanks for watching StreetTV.net.